Welcome to the Paisans Podcast. We're your hosts, the brothers from other mothers, Dante, Dave, and Sark. Join us as we talk about current events, our wives, kids, or whatever else life is throwing at us this week. With the Paisans, you're with family.
Oh yeah, we had a family wedding up in New Hampshire. So one of our cousins was getting married up there. So we knew about this obviously a long time ago. So we got a Airbnb for me and Jen and Dave and Danielle. And so we met up there, which was great. You know, it's almost fall. It's not quite autumn. So the leaves haven't turned or anything, but it was still beautiful. You know, you can just constantly driving through like canopy and beautiful scenery and winding roads, which was really gorgeous. And so we had an Airbnb just on a lake up there, which was kind of nice. It just was like a couple of nights. It was 2 nights, right, Dave? Yeah, just 2 nights.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Oh, we came back Monday. That's right. Yeah, so it was 3 nights actually. It just goes to show you. But it was great. Like we had a nice time. We got together with family for the rehearsal dinner and had a nice meal there for that. And then my father and his wife our father and his wife were there.
And who was it who got married?
Uncle Bob's son.
Yeah, Uncle Bob's son.
Oh, okay.
If you know, I'll just say, because I feel like you probably have heard of Uncle Bob.
I know Uncle Bob. I've hung out with Uncle Bob. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is Uncle Bob's son. He was actually the ring bearer in my wedding, to give you an idea of age differences.
Oh, my goodness.
He was, I don't know if I wouldn't expect you to remember that, Mike, but.
Well, you had little kids. I know that's always little kids.
Yeah.
So, exactly. Man, we're old.
He's a few years younger than I am, to put it in perspective. He's like 4 years younger than I am.
Yeah. So it was nice. Had a great time with family. I don't know about you, Dave. I mean, it was exactly what I wanted it to be. We got some time to relax at the same time. We hung out with Dave and Danielle for a bit, which was really nice.
And it was good. The wedding was really nice as well. It was kind of like the ceremony itself was in a church. So it was like full like Catholic Sunday mass. Maybe, you know, some of the readings, and the priest even kind of called this out, were a little, I guess he called them kind of unconventional for a wedding.
Like in what way?
Well, he was explaining, well, what he was saying, Mike, was because the wedding was on a Sunday, that all the readings and everything have to be the same as what they are for mass that day. So you can't say, okay, this is the reading I want for my wedding or whatever. Like it's got to match the mass. So it was, to Dave's point, it was an unconventional reading from the mass for that day. But the priest did a good job. But funny thing, I mean, if there was anything kind of funny, was just that when we all went up for communion, Dave and also our other cousin Pat, like I guess sort of forgot, or what did you do, Dave? Like,
well, all right,
he holds it up to you. What you said, okay,
I mean,
right?
I need to preface this as saying like I am not like super involved in Catholic. I was baptized, and I had I'm actually not confirmed, which maybe I shouldn't have gone up there. I don't know, but
I didn't know that.
But I've been baptized and I got my Holy Communion. So I'm like 2/3 of the way there. But yeah, no, I actually stopped going to
cut this part out.
But so I went up there, and I hadn't taken what's it called? Yeah, communion in a long time.
So you didn't know what to do?
Yeah, I kind of froze. I forgot. So I put my hands out, and he went to, and I said,
he goes, the body of Christ, and you get.
I said, thank you. He was like, he looked at me, and he's like, "Are you Catholic, my friend?"
Catholic, young man?
Yeah, and I was like,
Catholic, my friend?
I was like, yeah. And then he like did it again. And I was like, amen. And he gave it to me. And then I was fine. But our cousin Pat, who again is like, I don't know how often Patrick's going to church, probably a little more frequently than I have. And I would say he's probably confirmed if I had to guess. But he got all embarrassed about it too. Like, cause the priest asked him the same thing. Like, he was like, are you Catholic? Because Patrick just bowed his head apparently. he just put his head down.
Yeah.
And which, you know,
it just cracks me up because Pat says, and Mike, get this.
Yeah.
Pat goes, he said body of Christ, and I bowed my head. And like, that's what I've always done. And I said, what? He's like, I've never been questioned before. And I was like, Pat, I've never heard of that. I've been, I was like, I'm 50 years old. I've been going to Catholic mass my whole life. I've never heard of that. And he's just like whatever. So the priest probably was looking at all of us being like, none of these people are really Catholic. They're just coming up and fake.
But also, our father was like 2 people ahead of me. I don't know what Dad did, but like the priest gave him the dirtiest look. And I don't even know if Dad knows this, but like he like because Danielle, so it was Dad, Danielle, and then me. So like
Okay.
Dad's like walking away, and the priest like what like just like stared at him, and then like he went to Danielle and like went back to doing his thing. So I don't know if like Dad like forgot to do something or like
I don't know.
Again, Dad's not very entrenched
Well,
in
no, but
this.
he knows what to do with a Catholic. Yes, he knows what he's doing. I can't even imagine what was said.
Yeah,
I don't know. But what was interesting is when we went to the reception, the priest was at our table and he was sitting right next to my wife, who decided to strike up a conversation.
Oh boy.
And it wasn't long before there was a whole theological conversation going on. And it was actually pretty funny because Jen asked just a couple of questions and she sort of I don't want to say intentionally, but she was, I think she was poking a little bit, not to be provocative or disrespectful, like by any means, but she was just like sharing some things with me. And like, cause I just look over at one point and he's like, well, yeah, no, theologically, that's where I would just completely disagree with you. And then like, you went into all that, and I was like, oh, wow. This is interesting. And then he had to leave kind of early and, so he ate and then he got up and said he was really polite and really gracious to everybody. Like, he was a very nice guy. It was really, really fun interacting with him. But it was just interesting how it was like everywhere he goes, it's got to be like that, like just having people approach him and like say this. And I suppose that's what you're signing up for. I guess it's just signing up for, but it was just kind of funny to me.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. The short version. Do you? Yes. Do you?
Yes.
Good. You're married. Kiss her.
We're thinking about doing like a follow-up on the Stern thing, which I mean, Dante, honestly, you have more knowledge on what's happening than I think both Sark and I have.
The long and short of it with Howard Stern was that was a troll. Like he was trolling. So he released some kind of press release that like he basically leaked this story that he had been canceled or like he coordinated it in some way. And the press probably ran with it. The fact is his current contract is still set to expire at the end of 2025. He's in the process of negotiating a new contract, but it's probably not going well. So there might have been some truth in the rumors that he's getting lowballed because they don't want to pay him. But that whole thing was sort of a troll insofar that he came out like he had been apparently on vacation and he was supposed to come back from vacation and he didn't. They canceled the show like for a week because apparently he was actually still sick. But whether he decided to troll and release these stories at that time or somebody else wrote the stories because they were speculating that he was supposed to be back, but he's not back. So maybe he's been canceled. Whichever it is, and I'm inclined to believe it's actually that maybe he decided to release this idea to somebody. It was just because he was out for an extra week, and then he came back, and he's got this guy named Andy Cohen, who you've probably heard of. Andy Cohen has his own show. Yeah, Bravo, exactly. And so he had Andy Cohen like open the show the day that he was coming back and talk for like 10 minutes to sort of tease people and convince them that Howard had been replaced. And now it was like an Andy Cohen channel. Okay.
Really?
And then he comes on, ha, it's just a joke. I don't know what you guys heard, but I haven't been canceled, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now, here's what I know. He's still in negotiations. I'm just looking right here. And his contract is set to expire at the end of 2025. So whether he's to be canceled or not remains to be seen. He hasn't been canceled yet. And they were even saying this at the time, like either way, he'd be playing out the rest of his contract.
Right.
Okay. So either way, that he's on through the end of 2025. The question is, are he and Sirius going to actually work something out between now and then? Now, here's where I have some experience that maybe and some knowledge you guys might not, which is that this has been the trend every time he has to renegotiate his contract. It's like down to the wire. And it's him talking plainly on the air how he could very well not be on, and how it looks like, it just looks like next month I'm going to have more time on my hands. And this, not like he talks very much like it's a done deal that he's not coming on. It's all part of the negotiation. Having said that, what he has done many times is he's basically saying, well, they're only offering him so much money. So he says basically how much he's willing to work for that much money. So when he started and he went to Sirius, it was 5 days a week. But very quickly, they were like, well, no, actually, it's only 4 days a week. And so he was doing everything, but then Fridays he was doing a recap, like he came up with something else. And then it wasn't, but call it 2 years, and then he started doing only Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and he stopped doing like Mondays and Fridays. He started going down to 3 days a week. That might have been the second, so it might have been the first 5 years. It might have been 4 days a week, and then he renegotiated his contract, and it's like, here, how many millions of dollars? But what he doesn't say is he's cut another day out of the week that he's working, and he's taken however many more weeks, quote unquote, vacation. Right now, you call it vacation, but if you ask me, I'm going to say that what they're saying is, here's how much we're willing to pay you. And then he's like, well, here's how much I'm willing to work for that much money.
Yep.
And all the time in between, we can bucket into weeks and call them vacations. And I'll go on vacation. I'll sit at home, or I'll go somewhere, or whatever. I'll do what I want to do. He's got hundreds of millions of dollars at this point.
Right. He doesn't need money.
So he doesn't need the money. Right. So what I think will happen in the end is they will come to some kind of an agreement, but don't be surprised if he's on the air in some even more abbreviated fashion. Like maybe he's going to work 2 days a week, or maybe he's going to work every other week or something, like some type of negotiated. Don't be shocked if it's Tuesdays and Thursdays or something.
So if you're serious at that point, do you say, is it even worth it?
I was just getting to that point.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
I mean,
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how much Sirius knows about, one, how many of their listeners are listening to him. And I know they have survey data of like how many of their listeners would leave if he wasn't on the air anymore. I know that they have some survey data that talks to that. I know that for a fact, because they add when I've ended my Sirius subscription, they wanted to ask all these questions. I mean, it was a ridiculously long survey, but I gave it to them. When it comes down to it, they're like, what if we give it to you for free for the next year?
Yeah. Because they want to keep their subscription numbers high. That's really what, so they can mark and be like, we have 1 billion subscribers or whatever the number is.
Yes, exactly.
And even though half of them aren't even paying anything.
Well, they've got to know how many people are listening to him.
They have to.
And they might decide that he's worth it. He's worth something to have on the banners and to say, we have Howard Stern, even if he's barely on the air anymore.
If you're hemming and hawing over how many days you're going to work, then your heart's not in it. Clearly, your heart's not in it, right? It's like, well, you're going to drag me here for 2 days.
Doesn't he work out of his home anyway? So it's like, you're not even dragging him anywhere.
Correct.
Oh, right. He's in his house. That's right.
But if there's one thing he knows, he understands his worth, and he understands the worth of like a diluted brand, or I should say not the worth, but he understands the tragedy of a diluted brand. He really does. I mean, say what you will about his politics and everything else. He understands his brand, tried to shift it to be something different, and now he's not really anything distinct anymore, but he understands his brand. And so I think he understands that they are probably willing to pay him something to give him some amount of time. And what does he care? Like Dave said, it's not like he needs the money. At this point, it's probably just his ego that he wants to be able to spout off into the microphone. And nobody's going to tell him he can't. It's almost always going to be somebody who wants to hear what he has to say.
And
he's a master broadcaster.
To that point, he doesn't need XM radio or a Sirius radio, whatever it's called. He has fans. Have the ratings dropped? Probably. I mean, there's probably plenty of people like yourself who have stopped listening to him over the years. I'm sure he's definitely not what he was when he was at the peak of his career. But
sure, but
he can still. He doesn't need to have a boss, is really what I'm trying to get at. Like, he doesn't need to. He could hire a producer. He could do once a week from his home and do a podcast. And I almost think you mentioned ego in terms of like his ego is probably why he's still. It's almost like his ego doesn't want him to go into that podcasting world because he's been so critical of people like Joe Rogan and and all of them to be like, oh, that's not real. Like radio is like he'll call it because he's like a true radio DJ, I guess, or he views himself as like a true radio DJ. So going to podcasting would be to him be the ultimate sellout or something. I don't know, but theoretically, if Sirius was just like, Howard, we're canceling your contract effective today. He could, if he wanted to, start the Howard Stern show put it on YouTube, put it on whatever.
100%.
He would get plenty of people to listen. He would have no problem getting advertisers if he wanted, and he would make money off of that. And he'd actually
there'd
probably
be no difference. And there'd be no
there would be zero difference. Exactly.
You set up. You have it's the same exact thing you're doing.
Right. And he could just do it at whatever he wants, which I mean, maybe he's doing anyway. Maybe Sirius gives him very little notes or whatever. But I mean, still at the end of the day, they're a corporation, so like they might give him some sort of, some sort of feedback or some sort of like, BS that he's got to deal with.
They're not correcting him.
Yeah. But I mean, him and Robin could just do their own show together if they really wanted to.
I agree. But I don't understand the machinations of like the ins and outs of this contract. Like whatever money he makes, it's gross. He has to pay his entire staff from that. Now, again, he's not running short of money.
Right.
Does he, to your point, Dave, I don't quite get why he wouldn't say, why am I dealing with Sirius XM for at all? Why wouldn't I just be down, right? Live stream myself and then I'm downloadable all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I can only guess what his answer would be, and this is pure speculation on my part, obviously. What I always remember him saying was, I'm a radio guy.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm a radio guy. I've always been a radio guy. Now, he might decide at this point in my life, what do I need to start my own YouTube channel and everything else? Sirius does all that for me today. My show gets marketed. They break up little clips for me. Like, this is all done. What do I need to bother for? Now,
sure.
I agree with you, Dave. It's like, well, because you wouldn't have to deal with negotiating a contract every 5 years and go through all this rigmarole. But I think on most levels, he loves it. And he's got an agent. His agent does all this. Don Buchwald is his agent. So Don Buchwald does everything for him. He negotiates the contract. He plays the bad guy. He does all the things. All Howard does is say yes or no, or I don't want to do this, or I want to do that, or I want this much, or whatever. So, I'm with you, Dave. I don't understand why he wouldn't be podcasting at this point, but I think it's only because if I had to guess, it would be because he's going to go, why would I bother at this point? I'm going to get into something all new. How much longer do I have in my career?
I think you're probably right, Dante, but I also think there's got to be some sort of ego at play for a guy like him, for him to continue wanting to do the job of working for Sirius, quote unquote, I'm a radio guy. This is radio. This is how I make my living. I've been doing this for, at this point, 40, almost 50 years? I mean, is he in his 70s yet? Or
yes,
is he?
He is.
He is.
Oh, yeah.
He's probably in like his early 70s, right? So,
oh, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he just wants to ride this out until he dies. But again, it's like he could totally do a podcast. But I guess to your point, he would either have to bring people with him that currently produce his show or whatever, or he would have to do it himself. And that's probably actually something that he couldn't do himself, truthfully. But at the end of the day, like even if his contract didn't work, and he still wanted to, he could. And again, we don't know what his audience is, but I actually think if he were to start a podcast, people would be like, maybe I don't want to speak for you, Dante, but would you at least be curious if he started a podcast to be like, what is he going to talk about?
Maybe
for one episode, right?
Yeah, maybe enough to see like, oh no, he's still spewing the same bullshit as far as politics go.
Yeah,
but yeah, I probably would. I'm so upset with him, honestly, at this point that I can't. I don't know that I could go back to him on principle, But never say never.
Yeah,
right. There's something about the show, what it used to be, that will always live well in my memory.
I think the other part of it too is that why he wouldn't want to do a podcast is like what I said before about him being so critical about podcasters in the past. It's like, that's not real. Like that. I don't know his exact quotes, but I know he's been very critical of guys like Joe Rogan or, Mark Maron, maybe. I don't know. Although I could see him and Mark Maron being buddies.
Yeah. Yeah. He actually got along, but regardless, yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Right. He'd have to take back what all the things he said and acknowledge that he was wrong.
The funny thing is,
his mind.
He wouldn't even have to do that, though. Truthfully, he would just have to. He could just easily start one. I mean, people say stuff all the time, and then
sure.
go against.
Sure, he can own it too. He could just call it like a Stern.
Or he can own it.
I said I wasn't going to do a podcast. It's not a podcast. It's a Stern cast.
Yeah.
Be like,
you're right. He could do something like that too.
Do you guys know though? In the deal with Sirius, like, does he own his own content? So if he walks away, like, could they just continue to air Stern reruns?
Oh, that's a good question.
I am going to guess no, because when he moved to Sirius from K-Rock, it was like 7 years, maybe 8 years before he got archive. Might have been longer than that before he got the archive tapes of all his shows from
access to it.
From I'm assuming that when he came to Sirius, he was like, I own my tapes. Like, you guys are not keeping this shit forever. Like, I say where it goes. I say where it doesn't. If I leave, I take it with me. And I mean, I can't imagine that he wouldn't be that shrewd.
Right.
You know, I don't know the ins and outs of the contract, but that would be my assumption.
I would also imagine that if he didn't own the IP, Sirius would just be like, we're lowballing you, because guess what? If you don't sign this, like, we're just going to keep playing your reruns
anyway,
and we're going to keep, the Stern channels going.
Yeah,
because there's enough content of him to you could theoretically play his show forever, because you could probably just play a new show each day, and then when it hits the end, you just loop it back to the beginning. I mean, and there's probably years and years of content that he has recorded, I'm sure.
Oh my God, 100%. And you could play, if you went that route, Dave, you could just play full episodes in their entirety, good and bad. Or if you wanted, you could just cut it down to the highlights of every show, make it super rich.
Well, you could do both, right? Like, you could have someone edit here's like, Howard's best moments of 2015.
Right.
I don't know, just like have like, a 4-hour episode of just his best episodes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm guessing he has to own the IP at this point. I was going to ask, so if hypothetically, say Stern is still the top one, which he probably is, and that's probably at least part of the reason why they want to keep him, because even if he's watered down or diminished, he's still Howard Stern, and I'm sure he's still their big name. What's their number 2 show? Because I know they don't even have Jim Norton was on their network or whatever, their airwaves, but they recently canceled his show, which was the only other one I knew about. So I don't even know who else they have, what other channels they have. I mean, I guess they have music, obviously, but
I think they have a lot of commentators. Like Megyn Kelly is on there, and she's got a bunch of affiliated, like she's got like an MK network, which I don't think is her own network now. I think like
interesting.
So she broadcasts on Sirius XM.
Okay.
Howard Stern show, number 1. Second being Channel 2 for contemporary pop music, and third is the Highway, Channel 56 for country. Yeah. So like it's Stern and then just their music channel.
So if he's not doing the show on there, they probably do lose a lot of subscribers, simply because it's like, what else is anyone listening to there? It's probably the people who listen to the music on there are probably these people who are on free trials, and they're just like, all right, well, I usually listen to music in the car, so let me just throw. And
and seniors, believe it or not.
Well, right, because they are stuck in their ways, and
because they're not going to hook the phone up and do it that way.
So that's right. It's much easier for them.
The button.
But that's why
that's actually a great point.
Yeah, that is a really good point.
Seniors go away, as the boomers go away, people are not going to want to bother with Sirius XM anymore.
It's going to be Sirius XM pedestrian radio, as they call it, and then the cable networks, like they're all going to go under, because when the boomers
go
right off into the sunset. Yeah, like
I'd be interested to see like how many fans, original fans, so to speak, or fans that were there when he moved over to Sirius are still subscribers, or how that demographic has changed at all.
What's funny about him is that I remember that Stern was always popular because you either loved him or you hated him, and you listened to him either way. And they talk about that in Private Parts, the movie, where it's like they're getting the data on the listeners, and it was like the average Stern fan listens to him for an hour and a half a day, and it's like the average Stern hater listens to him to 3 hours a day. And they're like, I remember Paul Giamatti plays that program director. He's like, but if they hate him, why are they listening? And they're just like, I just want to hear what he's going to say next. Like that was always that was always the thing. So there might be these people who are these loyal fans who, and maybe they are like Dante, because Dante, I have no idea if your view on Stern is the status quo, or if you're one of 1 out of 100 or 1,000 or whatever. But there might be these people who are just listening to him, be like, God, I really hate him, but like, all right, I guess I just want to hear what he says next. It's like, I really hate him now, but like, I just want to hear what he says next now. But he's not as provocative as he once was either.
That's right. I
So-
think at the time, the haters and whatever were because they were offended by something he did. Offended in a way like, you can't say that on the radio, as opposed to, no, what you're saying is not true, and you're speaking propaganda. Like you're repeating the talking points that are being given to you when you know that it's not true. You can see it's not true.
Yeah.
Very different. And I think, what I think is that because of the nature of what his show was, you're not going to get people who otherwise would have been like, I would not listen to Howard Stern, to be like, well, now I hear that he's talking a lot about like bad about Trump. I'm going to give him a try. I don't think that's going to happen. I think you had a pocket of people who listened to him, and all he did was basically say to a whole bunch of people, like, you're not really welcome here unless you believe, like, agree with me. And that's really how it started to feel. I mean, he doesn't let everybody on the air with him anymore. So it's not like people call him and say, hey, you used to talk to Stern all the time. Talk to Trump all the time. Like, those calls don't get through. Yeah, those calls don't get through. So there's just like, his biggest censorship is by what he stops saying, by what he doesn't say, by what he doesn't acknowledge. It'd be days like you get on the show and you'd be like, dude, there was like a major event yesterday politically, and like it did not look good for Democrats, and he just literally would just not address it at all.
Right. Stern and Kimmel, like they're close friends. Yeah. They
time.
act very similar, in my opinion, too.
Yes.
In terms of
they parrot one another.
Right, where they both their careers have sort of parroted one another in terms of Stern was always the shock jock, right? K-Rock. And then Jimmy Kimmel was on The Man Show, Girls on Trampolines, him doing numerous bits where he's in blackface and, being borderline, whatever. I mean, all in the sake of comedy, but in today's world, the crowd that he caters to would not be very fond of that.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
I always think they're very similar, and I actually kind of think they both act the way that they do, almost in a way to be like, well, forgive me for my past sins of being this, edgy comedic guy who maybe, did some things that offended people, and now I'm just pandering to this group because I don't want this group to be mad at me anymore. And I don't want them to uncover these horrible things that I did in my past. That's sort of how I see both of them.
It's
exactly
like a giant mea culpa. It's like a giant, now I'm making up for all my past sins.
Right. Because
so it's like snoveling, sniveling, slobbering, spineless.
Right. 100%.
Twat.
Yeah.
I mean, and they weren't out at the same time, but they 100%, I think, have influenced one another.
Yeah.
And I think that once Stern I remember a bunch of years ago, it was like Stern went out to the West Coast, and I think Jimmy Kimmel started introducing him to like all these stars, and he came back and he was like, oh my gosh, I was the belle of the ball. Everywhere I went there, everyone wanted to talk to me, and blah, 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 blah. And it was like, now I can't tell you that was the beginning of it turning, but I don't think it's a coincidence that, to your point, Dave, Jimmy Kimmel has been at the far end of the spectrum in terms of doing things that could be considered politically incorrect.
Yeah.
I mean, he's committed several unforgivable sins, wearing blackface not being one of them, and doing it twice.
At least twice. I just saw when he got canceled, I saw a video circulating of him pretending to be Oprah, where
there's one of him being Oprah.
Where he was in like full blackface, and I forget what he was doing, but it was a joke about her weight as well. It was somehow a joke about her weight.
Yep. And then he also likes to rip on Karl Malone.
Karl Malone, right. He did multiple Karl Malone bits, which, honestly, like, I remember seeing the Karl Malone bits back in the day, and like, I was like, these are pretty funny. Like, I was like, I think Jimmy Kimmel he used to be pretty funny when he was on The Man Show.
He was funny, yes. He had a sense of humor.
Yeah. So, like, it's just funny. Like, these guys, like, and Howard's probably the same way. It's like, they've decided that they should be ashamed of these things, and I don't know if it's because there's like some Illuminati person on the left who has been like, you
Scientology.
Have to, like, you must repent your sins if you ever want to be in our club. Like, and maybe that's what it is. Like, I don't know, but they were funny and they shouldn't be embarrassed about that stuff. And honestly, like, when Jimmy Kimmel got canceled, it was like everyone made such a big deal about it. Whatever. I was like, I could care less, right? Who watches the late night shows anymore?
Nobody watches him.
If he wanted to, he could just, and he might already have a podcast, Jimmy Kimmel. I don't know, but he could just create his own show and just. If like, do we have to feel bad for these guys who are like fired by these networks for whatever reason? It's like,
it's ridiculous.
No, yeah, we don't need to.
I completely agree. They never fired him, and he was never.
They suspended his show. Yeah, they
They
suspended.
suspended his show for and I'm telling you, Dave, it was like 3 nights. Like it was not long. It was not a full week. One of the sponsors, like one of the major there's like 2 huge players that broadcast locally or something to that effect. And one of them basically said, "We're not showing this to any of our local affiliates.
Yeah,
we're going to suspend the show." And they've continued to suspend the show.
So
they made that announcement first. So ABC said, "Oh, we're going to suspend Jimmy's show." They held him off the air, call it 2-3 nights, whatever. Okay. Then they put him back on. They never canceled him, but it got twisted into he's been canceled, just like with Howard Stern. And he was never, and this is really important too. The government never said a word. Like the government never touched him. The head of the FCC made a comment about how like they're going to have to be more careful or something to that effect. But there was never like we're going to take them off the air if they don't suspend him.
Mm.
It may have been their decision that he was saying things that were so obviously untrue for example, he was implying that the Charlie Kirk's assassin was MAGA, has been debunked multiple times. Like everybody knows that that's not the case, but he continues to push that lie. And so they were like, yeah, we're going to take him off the air. Now, they might not really give a shit that he's out there saying that, but they felt the brunt for a day or two. Now it's somehow been convoluted into being the government took him off. No government took him off the air. There was no censorship in that sense. Now, he doesn't need to be taken off the air for saying what he's saying.
Yeah.
He probably needs to be taken off the air because however much they're spending on that show, they're not making it back in advertisements. He's losing them money.
Right.
That's why they will ultimately need to take him off the show.
The ratings were probably the best they've ever been when he was put back on the air for last week. But I guarantee you this week when it starts up again, no one's like, oh, I got to tune in to see the Tonight Show with Jimmy Kimmel or whatever show the Late Show with Jimmy Kimmel.
Correct.
Like, no one gives a shit.
There's no bump. It's a sugar high at best.
Right.
At best.
And honestly, the people who intake that content, most of them are just watching clips on YouTube, if they're anything. There's like one person on that show, they're like, oh, I'd like to hear what,
yes,
your favorite actor or your favorite singer is on the show. And like, oh, I'd like to hear what that person says. And it's like the YouTube clip is like usually like 2 minutes and it says like, Sabrina Carpenter showers with shoes on, or something stupid like that.
Because you're not even going to get a good interview. Those don't exist anymore on those shows.
Right.
I feel like Letterman was one of the last. But even him, it kind of was hit or miss.
Well,
but
because
you don't even ask good questions.
Letterman at least would have some longer interviews on his show, I feel like, but they would still cut it down. So you'd only really get like 7 minutes max. But that's why we're talking about podcasters, and even Stern's format could at least be like this is, you get when you have these long interviews, like when you're listening to a Rogan podcast, it's 3 hours. And if you're like, 3 hours to sit and listen all in one shot is a long time. But if you listen to it, even if some people drive to work, say you drive 45 minutes to work, right?
Yeah.
You're still hearing the full conversation and the full context of what people are saying. You're not taking these small little clips and taking something out of context, which is like basically all we do today and with these short form clips. But like I think that's why it got so popular, because people were like, I'm sick of these Tonight Show interviews that are 5 minutes, and it's like you asking 2 stupid questions. Oh, what's your favorite cracker?
Pre-canned story,
right? Exactly,
with a punchline. Yep. Oh, 100%.
And even on say political debates, that's why those suck too, because you have, if you're going through say like a Democratic or Republican debate where they're trying to cut it down to what say 10 people on the stage, it's like, all right, I'm going to ask each person 2 questions and they have 30 seconds to respond, and that's it.
You've got to be able to go on Theo Vaughn, Joe Rogan, pick the podcast, a lot of them actually, and sit and answer questions from what your underwear look like to why you supported a certain bill to your background. Like, you need to be able to be a real human being who actually knows what you're talking about. And that is not what network television was designed for.
Right.
So it's outdated technology. And so we're all sitting here talking about it. The only reason we give a shit is because they pulled this stunt. Anyway, all right, boys, let's wrap it up. It's 10 o'clock.